Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. And where do we start? Where do we start? A full day of college football. Another amazing playoff game. I mean, I'm still in shock of everything that I've saw today in the sports world. I'm Chris Sylvester. You're tuned in to Chris's Corner, a late night edition of Chris's Corner, October 13th, 2012. It's about to be October 14th, 2012. It already is on the East Coast. But, man, we just had so much go on today. We had the Red River rivalry. We had West Virginia go down. We had South Carolina go down. We had a game that scored over 100 points between Texas A&M and Louisiana Tech. I told you that was going to be the game of the week. And we'll get into the scores in a second, but first we'll start off in the world of Major League Baseball. It was the Yankees and the Tigers today from Yankee Stadium, Game 1. Just a day after the Yankees, CC Sabathia pitched a complete game against the Baltimore Orioles to advance to yet another LCS berth for the New York Yankees and their very successful franchise. And they met a team that hasn't been too kind to them in recent years when they've met in the playoffs. Last year, New York was taken out by Detroit in the American League Division Series. Then back in 2006, Detroit also taking New York out in the Division Series. Detroit went on to lose that World Series to the St. Louis Cardinals. And Detroit kept at it tonight. A 12-inning, grinded out, 6-4 victory in New York against the Yankees. But what a game. The Detroit Tigers went into the ninth inning leading 4-0. They bring in Papa Grande Jose Valverde, who's coming off of an embarrassing blown save against the Oakland Athletics earlier this week in Game 4 of the American League Division Series. Comes out and really didn't make any adjustments. He really didn't. He gave up another 4 runs tonight. It started off with an Ichiro 2-run home run. He got an out, walked Mark Teixeira, which was the big mistake for Mr. Clutch Raul Ibanez, and I'm speechless still. Raul Ibanez will once again hit it into the seats in that short porch in right field at Yankee Stadium and tied up the game. I was just, he's already done it so many times in the last 2 weeks. If you're the Tigers in that situation, pitch him away. Give him a ball that he's not going to be able to pull. He gave him a breaking ball out in front of the plate. Ibanez was early on it and was still able to hit it 3-4 rows up. Granted, that's probably not a home run in any other ballpark. You got to play with the circumstances that are in front of you on a baseball field, and Jose Valverde blew a 4-run lead in the ninth. And, the Yankees had all the momentum in the world, but the Tigers were able to score 2 in the top of the 12th inning against David Phelps and pull out a 6-4 victory. Definitely a victory that the Yankees could have walked off with in the ninth. They had an opportunity in the bottom of the 6th inning where they did have the bases loaded with 1 out, but Doug Fister was able to strike out Curtis Granderson and Russell Martin and strand the bases loaded. That was the key point in this ball game, and it came back to bite them. That's really the story of the night. Even in college football, there's a couple situations where the team left points out on the field, and if they don't leave those points out on the field, they win the game, but instead they lose because they left those points out on the field. Same thing with the Yankees. They left runs out on the field tonight, and that was a big factor of why they lost 6-4. Usually you don't see these games go in the other direction of the team that suffered the big blow. Usually you see the Yankees walking off an inning or two later. This was very reminiscent to Game 6 last year between the Cardinals and Rangers. We all remember that game. Texas was able to take a 2-run lead with Josh Hamilton after David Freese hit that triple to right field. They made the comeback. The Rangers went ahead, and then the Cardinals came back, but definitely not the same case tonight in New York. They were able to hold still. Drew Smyly, a left-handed starter for the Tigers, was summoned out of the bullpen. He did a very good job in his 2 innings. He shut down New York for those 2 innings, and he shut the door on the Yankees as the Tigers go up 1-0 in the American League Championship Series. Now, obviously, it was a big blow that the Yankees weren't able to win this game, but I think the bigger blow came after the game when they got news that Derek Jeter has a fractured ankle after needing to be helped off the field after an attempted diving stop on a grounder by Johnny Peralta in the 12th inning of the game. He suffered a fractured left ankle. Jeter made the stop, moving his feet left and flipped the ball towards first base, but rolled over and remained face down on the infield in obvious pain. They had to rush out to get Jeter. The Yankee Stadium crowd, as he walked off, chanted their usual Derek Jeter. Jason Nix came back in the game, and he took over at short for the remainder of the night. But this is just a huge blow. He will not be able to play again, obviously, in the postseason. It's usually a 3 to 4 month recovery, and he should be alright for spring training if everything goes well. But, man, ankle fractures aren't anything to mess around with. You saw what happened with Kendrys Morales of the Angels back in 2010. It took him a year and a half to come back from this type of injury. Obviously, Morales' was a little bit more severe because of all the pressure he had bent on his ankle. It was just an ugly situation there, but you never know. You got to get the right surgery. If the screws aren't working, you got to get another surgery, and your time to return can just keep getting delayed and delayed. So obviously, right now, it's a huge blow for the Yankees, and it could be in the future as well. Obviously, this guy had a fantastic season. He had a fantastic season for his age and for the time that he's been in the game. It's absolutely remarkable that he can still put up numbers like he's 25 years old. But, Derek Jeter, definitely a huge loss for New York, not only on the field, but in the clubhouse as well. Definitely an emotional scene tonight in the New York clubhouse, knowing that they will be without their captain for the remainder of the postseason. So, already being down 1-0, losing the first game at home, they got to regroup and do it all again in about 14 hours from now at Yankee Stadium. Game 2 tomorrow between the Yankees and the Detroit Tigers. Derek Jeter will not be playing in that game and will not be playing for the rest of the postseason with a fractured left ankle. How about tomorrow? We just talked about it. The Yankees and the Tigers will face off tomorrow at Yankee Stadium in 14 hours from now. The Yankees and Tigers both had to use their bullpens, but good thing is they'll probably be able to use the bullpens just as much as they did today, if necessary, tomorrow, if they need to, because both teams' bullpens were not used at all yesterday. CC had the complete game, and the Tigers were off after getting that victory to clinch an ALCS berth on Thursday night. But tomorrow, from Yankee Stadium, Anibal Sanchez, who was acquired mid-season from the Marlins, and Hiroki Kuroda will be going head-to-head in the Bronx at 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Sanchez, a guy who you just never know. He has no-hit stuff. He's thrown a no-hitter in his career back with the Marlins in 2005, I believe. He's an on and off guy. You never know what you're going to get from this guy. If he leaves the ball up, hitters are going to take advantage of him. If he has everything working, if he throws the ball where he needs to throw the ball, he's going to be successful. Same thing with Hiroki Kuroda. It just depends on what kind of day it is. Both these offenses have the chance to go off at any point in time. So don't expect another particularly low-scoring game tomorrow between the Tigers and the Yankees, albeit it is the playoffs and everything seems to go a lot slower. Expect a little bit more of a slugfest tomorrow out at Yankee Stadium as the Yankees try to even up this series 1-1 going back to Detroit. As for the NL, the amazing St. Louis Cardinals face off against the amazing San Francisco Giants. Both these teams should not be here right now. We'll get into their situations in a second, but that'll be Lance Lynn, the 18-game winner this year, against Madison Bumgarner. Both did not fare well against the Nationals and the Reds, respectively, in the National League Division Series, but both will get another crack at it tomorrow night in San Francisco as it's Game 1 of the National League Championship Series between the Cardinals and Giants. Last time these two teams met in a playoff series, it was back in 2002. The Giants were able to beat the Cardinals in 5 games and were able to go on to the World Series, eventually losing to the Angels. But, this is a very interesting matchup because the Giants were the 2010 World Series champions, and of course, the Cardinals, the 2011 World Champions. So, a matchup of the league's last 2 world champions, and 2 teams that shouldn't be there. Like I said, the Cardinals, an amazing comeback after being down 6-0 yesterday to the Washington Nationals, scored 4 runs in the 9th inning to take a 9-7 lead. Jason Mott shut the door. As for the Giants, with the new format, they lost their first 2 games at home and went to Cincinnati and won 3 in a row. 3 in a row in Cincinnati. They swept Cincinnati out in that little 3-game set in Cincinnati, and both these teams are red hot coming into this game. It's just going to be really, in my opinion, a matter of who scores first. Both these teams have a lot of momentum, but whoever can slow down the other team's momentum, I believe, will win this ball game and could go on to win this series. I have the Giants in 6 games. I just think their pitching is going to be a little bit too much. San Francisco, really a hitter's ballpark, probably one of the worst ballparks for hitters in the major leagues. Of course, you have the Marine Lair, you have the McCovey Cove right there. Cardinals, I think, have a better lineup, 1 through 9, but I just think that the Giants' starting pitching and bullpen is better. Bullpen is better, but you better believe that Chris Carpenter and Adam Wainwright, knowing that this might be their last chance to get to another World Series, are going to be going very hard at trying to get their 2nd consecutive World Series championship. So certainly it's going to be a duel between the Cardinals and Giants tomorrow. That game at 8 Eastern, Lynn versus Bumgarner. One thing I want to talk about all these 4 teams. All these 4 teams are here because they do not quit. They don't quit. The Yankees could have saw the Baltimore Orioles coming up behind them near the end of the season and just quit and had to play a wild card playing game, but they didn't. They kept going at it. Same with the Tigers. The Tigers didn't get off to the best of starts. The Chicago White Sox were in front of them for basically the whole year, but they didn't quit. The White Sox went on a skid, and the Tigers took advantage of it. That's why they're in the playoffs. That's why they made it here. Same with the Cardinals. Cardinals lost their manager, their pitching coach, Albert Pujols. Didn't have Chris Carpenter for most of the season. They just didn't quit. They didn't quit last night in Game 5 in the 9th inning. No quit.